All right, so let's get started. Hello, everyone. Welcome to All In on Real Estate. I'm your host, Aaron Goins. The reason why I started this meetup is because when I was in the military, happy Veterans Day to everybody that's watching. When I was in the military, no one in my circle talked about real estate. A lot of times, they talked about debt, finances, things like that. No one really invested in real estate, and I want to have a meetup where people can understand all niches of real estate and build generational wealth for them and them families. So I'm very, very excited for our guest speaker today, Mr. Jimmy Newson. Welcome, sir, to All In on Real Estate.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm excited. I'm always excited.
So let's rock and roll with this. I know it's going to be action packed. We talked about this beforehand. So could you give everybody a background about you and who are you? You know, I know we had a great conversation. That's the reason why I asked you to be on this meetup.
Sure,
I'm really impressed with what we talked about and what you're doing and where you're going at in life. But can you please introduce yourself to everybody else?
Sure. Thank you all. Happy Veterans Day. My name is Jimmy Newson. I am the founder of Jimmy Newson Consulting and Moving Forward Small Business, which is my current venture where we're on a mission to save 1 million businesses from failure by the year 2050. I'm also the senior advisor of the New York Marketing Association. I spend a lot of time speaking about marketing, sales, leadership, business growth strategies for multiple organizations, including the New York City Public Library. I'm working on a new deal with SCORE, if you're familiar with SCORE, which is a national organization. My background is actually in the music industry, and I used to do a lot of stuff with the Grammys, and then I got tired of working for people who was like, I'm going to be the next big thing, so I need you to just do this for me and I'll pay you on the back end. And I was like, oh, I like money, so no, see you later. And I ended up going into video production, and then from there I went into marketing. And so now that's the majority of my business advising and consulting is heavily rooted in marketing, and specifically what's known as inbound marketing, which allows us to leverage every aspect of the internet to help a business grow and help them, and when I talk about the grow, it's everything from, of course, marketing and sales to branding to your social media channels and your website and your ad campaign strategies, and then tying that into what's your offline strategies as well. So I've been blessed to be able to work with a lot of businesses in multiple verticals. Some of my top clients that I've worked with are included like AT&T and organizations like that. And of course, I spend a lot of time with the small business community. That's where my passion is, because as Claudia, you mentioned with being able to go be online, if it wasn't for technology, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. I'm having conversations with organizations now, including like Bank of America and the NBA, and all this is in relationship to how can I help them help the small business community? Last year alone, 4.3 million new business applications were filed during the pandemic. Why? Because a lot of these guys saw for the first time, if they haven't already realized it, that their security in the job market was not really that secure. And now they're realizing it's probably better for me to go out on my own and try to do something versus stand somewhere where I can be canned at any moment, unfortunately. Let go, cut back, and I have no control over that type of, over this scenario, So it really opened the door, but it also opened the door. My business grew because, of course, I deal in digital marketing and all these aspects. And so every company that was online and not doing it right needed help. And every company that's been sitting on the fence for years going, I need to do this, now realize that they have no choice. If you guys are familiar with Gary Vaynerchuk, he made it very clear. He said, if the pandemic didn't teach us anything, it taught us, it advanced every aspect of digital 5 years. So everybody had to do in 1 year what it normally would have took them 5 years to finally get to. So it pushed, now everybody knows about Zoom. Everybody knows about, streaming and aspects of why it's important. But now the problem is, how do I leverage this to my advantage? And you can leverage it to your advantage, not just from growing your business, but building your relationships and figuring out, how do I add value the right way to an organization, so I am now attractive enough to have some type of conversation that's going to lead somewhere. So these are the things I cover now. So there's more, but I think I'll stop there, Aaron.
Yes, yeah. I think absolutely so, man. And like I said, thank you again, man. It's a pleasure to have you on here. All right, so you said a lot of stuff. I'm going to jump into it, and then we're going to jump into what we talk about offline. Well, before we started the meetup officially. So you said that you started working in the music industry and things like that. What was your experience with that, and what's one thing you took from the music industry to your business now?
Well, I think the biggest thing is, no matter what, I always say, you're not in the business of, say, real estate or construction or marketing. You're in the business of problem solving. And sometimes it's not clear that you're a problem solver, even if you work at McDonald's. You're a problem solver. You're solving people's hunger. So you're buying into the fact, why am I doing this? And what's the bigger reason? So for the music industry, I realize we're helping people, become this, at the end of the day, they're becoming an icon. They have influence and things like that. I love that part about the business, but the most important aspect as someone working in the business is customer service. And so, that's when you provide good customer service, you retain people, even if people don't like you, and this could be personalities. When you're able to deliver such great personality that the top goes, people love them, the clients love them, he's always there for them. This translates across any business. So that was the biggest thing I took away from, I've hosted events, weddings, parties, bar mitzvahs, you name it. I've done all that stuff, and everything is always about, how well can I take care of this client? Because if I take care of the client and I deliver results, and that's the key thing, taking care of them is only one part of it. The other half are the results they want, because they can like you, but if you're not delivering results, they're not going to continue to pay you. And so I took that. And so no matter where I went, I'm always going, who is my customer? And some people get it wrong, where they think the customer is just the people that are paying you. It's also your partners. Your partners are your customers. Your relationships are your customers. You treat every single person like a customer, because your customers, you want to keep paying you, and they're just not paying you with currency. They're paying you with other means. They're paying you with new introductions, new relationships. They're paying you with opportunities to leverage that. So I look at that no matter what I do, and then that's where I can determine where's the value to keep this relationship going, to keep this customer happy.
I love it. So deep diving a little bit more what you're saying, the first thing you were talking about customer service, I think about Chick-fil-A.
Mm-hmm.
They might not have the best burgers and chicken in the world or whatever, but the customer service makes them number one, because of a tried and true routine that they do. And I mean, you see, especially where I live at, it's unbelievable how long the lines are for Chick-fil-A. I mean, I like chicken. I mean, I eat chicken all day, but man, I'm like, wow, this is a lot right here. So, you went from the music industry, you start having a consulting business. What about consulting really triggers you? Like, what energizes you about being a consultant?
I think the biggest thing that energizes me is I get a chance. I'm not stuck in a cubicle, even though it kind of looks like it right now. It gives me the ability to, when you work for a single company, you start to adapt that single mindset. This is where I'm focused. This is where I always have to be. And you don't get a chance to experience that same, whatever it is you do, across other verticals, because there is differences. There's a lot of similarities and there's a lot of differences. So when you're able to see hundreds of businesses a month and interact with them in different ways, you can see how a particular strategy works well for one industry and not for another. And now you start to expand the way you think about how you can interact with them. And you can also be a little bit more realistic. And that's really the thing I like to do. I won't take on a client if I don't think I can help them. And I'll try to be I'm almost negative. People are like, do you not want the business? I go, I want the right business, because I don't want to feel like I gypped you. I don't want to feel like you didn't get, there's that thing called buyer's remorse, and people will go into it with saying, hey, my product's the best product in the world and people love it. And then you look under the hood, you see every problem that they have and you're going, why did I even take this? Why did I start this conversation, whether it's building a relationship or trying to get with a client? So you have to try to figure out a way, as a consultant, I get a chance to hear everybody's problems and figure out, are they relatable? Can I try something? I try it with someone else. Can I ask the question differently? And at the end of the day, it really keeps me on my toes, because I can't be slacking here, because I would like to get paid at the end of the day. So consulting really gives me the ability to build my vast knowledge of how things work and how they can work across multiple industries.
So are you very so I think one thing for just coming what you're saying, you got to be very adaptable to the surroundings.
Yeah, and it takes practice. If now I've done it so much now that I call it like we're doctors in a way. I think the old school way of doing it is, hey, we have these 6 services and you have to pick one. And before you even get on the phone, you've already determined, hey, you're going to get SEO. But at the end of the day, that's not really the right strategy. If you think about a doctor, you're going to see the doctor because something's wrong with you. It would be very inefficient and very wrong for a doctor to already prescribe a solution for you before he even understood what you needed. And a lot of companies will do that. Well, this is what you need. So I don't come at it that way. I look at it and I'll go, let's have a conversation. People go, hey, I need to hire you for my services. I'm like, let's figure out what you need first. Then I'll tell you what services are best for you. How are you the expert here? And so they have to tell me their issues, and you got to ask the right questions. Talk about their target audience, their services, how there's a very deep dive, which for me, from a marketing standpoint, has nothing to do with marketing. I just need to understand you. And when I understand you, now I can figure out, can my services actually help you? Then I'll come back with, all right, let's talk about some options and figure out what we can do from here.
Wow, I think that's very cool. And I think that's for you can do that for any business, especially being a consultant for something like that. I mean, you can adapt to different industries and, like you said, it comes down to people, understanding people and what their wants and needs are. So I think that's very, very powerful. All right, so let's switch gears a little bit to what we were talking about offline.
Yeah. Okay.
So, we got the conversation about like connecting with people online. Yes. and things like that. What are some ways that you do, or some of the things that you were saying to connect with you online? Because a lot of times, like you were saying offline, that, hey, people they don't know you. So how can I really connect with you? How can I really know you can add value to me? So what are some of the strategies you do or you think people should do to connect with people online, like LinkedIn or other platforms like that, to build relationships?
Sure. Well, my last year for me, I have themes every year. Last year's theme was USP, unique selling proposition. This year's theme is partnerships and relationships. So I'll back up. I do a lot of work for the New York City Public Library System, and I'm now trying to figure out how I can tap into the whole library system throughout the U.S. My colleague she goes, hey, here's an opportunity for you to write for Entrepreneur magazine, but entrepreneur.com. So I said, okay, great. And I said, but let's not make the introduction yet. I'm realizing, based on feedback about myself, I need to fix something. And that's where the whole USP thing came in together. I said, and the reason why I realized that is because when people would talk to me in person, they would go, you're a lot more than what we're reading about you online. There's more to you. We're more excited because we actually got on the phone with you, and you weren't represented well online. This is my website, maybe my social media channels, all these things. And I realized there was a massive disconnect. I'm not keeping up with, I haven't updated my bio in a year. I haven't changed all my headers on my channels and this and that. So there's a lot of misfires in regards to everything that's going on across my entire digital footprint. So I said, first thing I'm gonna do is I need to clean all that up and get unified, get focused, and have one single message. Let's revisit my purpose, my vision and mission for me as an independent, an individual, and as a company, because those are two different things. So I started there, and then I don't know about you guys, but I'm horrible at talking about myself. I absolutely hate it. So for the first time, I hired a writer, and she did a really cool thing, which I now do for my clients for other reasons. She just said, I'm just going to interview you, and from there, I'm going to create your bio. Because when you're talking, you're more relaxed. You remember things because all of a sudden things trigger. And there are things that I would not have included in my bio that I ended up that she included. And so she sent me the bios, and she sent them to me in different 400 words, 200 words, 50 words. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool, because you always have to chop those things down. So when she did that, she goes, what do you want me to change? I go, nothing. I go, because if I get involved in the process, I'm just going to screw it up. And I'm going to do it based on the insecurities I got going on up in my brain. So after I did that, and then I used that bio, then I refixed everything on my site. I go, because if this is the best representation of me, now everything else has to match that. Then I submit it to Entrepreneur as a contributor, and there's a process that you have to go through. They have to call you, vet you, and all this stuff. Well, when I got done recreating my structure, and I did kind of like an analysis of everything that I'm involved in, from being on boards, from organizations I'm partnered with, SaaS companies I work with. So it was pretty impressive. They didn't do the vetting process. They approved me without even talking to me. And I go, oh, okay. So I kind of really created a structure around that I use to kind of show other people how to do that. But it opened the door for me to go, this is you. And if they can feel the energy from you without ever talking to you, the problem that I realized is, if the companies that do call you or the people that do connect with you take the time and they realize you're more than what you are after they talk to you, imagine how many people just didn't take the opportunity at all, because they just didn't think you were that person. And that was the true lesson. It wasn't the ones that I got to connect with. It was the ones that I didn't get to connect with because I wasn't represented properly. So if that makes sense. So now when I worked on that and I made me online look as good as I am offline, now that's what I put forward when I reach out to partners. And being a marketer, I have access to tools, and I'll share tools. So somebody will reach out to me for a partnership. I have tools, and I can do a complete analysis of that person before I even get on the phone with them. Now, why do I do that? Not because I'm trying to figure out of course I'm trying to figure out who they are, but I'm more or less trying to figure out how can I be of value to them, true value. So when I can see where, like when I write articles for Entrepreneur, I don't pick stuff out of my head. I use my tools and I go, where are they lacking in content? And then I write the article and it gets approved immediately, because they're going, wow, we actually needed this. And I'm going, yeah, I know. But I do that. So I can do that for organizations. I'm speaking with, like Bank of America. I'm in talks with Bank of America. I'm in talks with the NDA about certain things. And I can look and figure out where they're lacking based on what I do and go, here's how I can help you. I think the problem that most people do is they come in and go, how can I help you? And if they don't know you, they don't know how you can help them. And you're putting all the effort on them. And if they're busy, which most of them are, they don't got time for that. So you got to come in and go, hey, I see that you're having this problem. Here's how I can help you. And they're going, yeah, because that was the topic of my conversation with our team last week. There are tools that can figure out how you do that. Now you're at an advantage and you're making yourself way more valuable before you even start the relationship. And this is how you break past everybody, because it's no secret. Everybody's using LinkedIn. Everybody's leveraging the basic structure. I get, and then they're using it incorrectly. I get, I have to tell you how many solicitations I get a day. Hey, I love to talk about partnerships. Their idea of partnerships is getting on the phone and showing me how I can pay for a tool that can help me do something. That's not a partnership. I'm like, excuse my language, pisses me off. Because that's not a true partnership. A true partnership is, how is this a win-win for both of us? If you call me up and say, hey, I got a great tool that can help small business owners do A better, and I like you, and I give it to you for free, and we figure out a way that we can work together to get this in the hands of more small business owners and entrepreneurs, now that makes sense. I'm like, yeah, I get that. Sounds cool. Because I'm getting something, you're getting something, I get to test it out, we get to figure out how it works. I can be of service to you to help you better improve the tool, and I always say, no matter what industry you're in, you guys are mostly in the real estate industry. What tools are you using regularly that help you deliver services to your clients? Those are potential partners you should be reaching out to. I have 3 partnerships with 3 major software companies that have millions of users. And I just use their tool to show them things, show their audience things, and I pick up clients and they get a great presentation. So it's a win-win situation here. So I don't cold call, and inbound is all about producing content that draw people to you versus you picking up the phone and going, hey, I'd love to have 5 minutes of your time. That's interruption. I produce content that brings people in and go, I saw when you did this, I saw that, and I liked you, I liked the message. How can we work together? Well, I don't know. Let's find out. Now the power's in your court, not theirs.
I gotta replay that tonight.
And I could talk about what that partnership looks like. I mean, like I said, it's one thing to tell you what it is, but it's another thing to go, what's the process?
Yeah, go for it. And then I'm gonna ask you another question after that. But yeah, let's go for it, please.
Yeah. So like I said, I'll use a number of tools. There's the library has if you guys, I don't know where you are, but the libraries are very underrated in regards to access to tools that can give you insights on an organization. But there's also tools like, I use a tool called SEMrush, SEMrush.com. And you can have a free version. You can pop someone's domain name in there and find out tons of information about, not from an SEO standpoint, the traffic, but then there's ways of reading that data to figure out how popular they are, where they're getting wins, where they're not strong enough. And depending on what you're trying to do, you can figure out, we're all content providers. Okay. So I'm always looking for ways to provide content, because I'll share with you an inside secret that both the NBA and both Bank of America, 2 massive organizations, have shared with me. They have problems. Good Lord. And I was like, what? No, and they got problems. You know what their problem is? Lack of great content. So that means everybody has this problem. Nobody has enough time to produce content. Why? Because they're not in the content business. So if you could master creating content for your industry and do it well, you are very valuable, because no one has the time to try to figure out how to do this stuff. So this becomes a way for you to integrate with not only with partners, with different organizations, because even in content can be blog posts, podcast stuff, webinars, events, trainings, anything that you're given. And the key here is it's educational, 100% educational. The more you educate the audience, the easier it is to sell them on the back end. And I'm not talking about those typical webinars you see where they spend 25 minutes giving you an idea and 45 minutes trying to sell you into their program. I hate that. I'm talking about 100% of content, and then, hey, connect with me if you want more. And what you're doing is you're eliminating everybody who would never pay you. You're eliminating anyone who doesn't really care, and you're only getting contacted by those that are going, I really do need this help. What can we do? How can we work together? And this is how people want to cast this massive net and try to get as many fish. But at the end of the day, how many clients do you actually need? And how many can you actually deal with? And as a small business, it's not as many as Bank of America can deal with, But again, that's the problem with a lot of organizations is content. And we're in a content driven world, right now. People start 70% of the searches for information and products and services starts online before it will get to you. That means they've done 70% of the work. Now they're figuring out who is that individual, that organization that can deliver those products and services. So you're taking all this stuff into mind. You're doing some research on these organizations. You're looking to see what press releases they put out lately, so you can have some talking points that are realistic. You're communicating with them online. When I finally made my Bank of America connection, it took me over a month, and I literally, it's almost like you're a private detective, and I'm following her around, but online, and I'm looking at what she's posting, and I'm figuring out where can I contribute. That whole trend online right now on LinkedIn is send a message, try to connect, immediately try to build a relationship. Doesn't work that way. You need to, if you can get them connected, that's fine. But if you can see their post, start commenting on their post, but try to comment as intelligently as you possibly can. Hey, great idea. Thanks. You got to dive deep and go, I understand your point, and I agree with that because, you're showing your expertise, and then I did that a number of times. Then I reached out to her because, believe it or not, I did reach out to her before, and it was crickets. Why? Because everybody's doing that. But when I started commenting, she recognized my name. So by the time I private messaged her again in LinkedIn, she responded. Because because I'm being and I'm trying to be the first one on her post, not the 50th person on the post, because by then you're buried and she may be just reading them all just to read it. But when you're the first one, I'll read when I drop a post on LinkedIn and someone comments, I'm intrigued to listen, to look at it. You got my attention. And if it's just, hey, great post, Jimmy. All right, so there's nothing there. But if they dive deep, then I have to think about it because I need to respond in most cases. So you're putting them on the spot. So these are things you're looking at before you go, how can I figure out? And then when I did reach out to her, I already knew what were hot buttons based on what she was talking. So I addressed them. And I said, hey, I understand, there's huge problems with the small business community and this and that. And here's how we're helping to solve that problem. Can we talk? And the response was, definitely, we can talk. And now that's the conversation we're now having. And I'll use that for other organizations as well. One of my board advisors works for the NBA. He's a senior advisor on that level. And that's how I built that relationship. You would go, what the hell does Bank of America, the NBA have to do with small businesses? Well, if you weren't paying attention to what they're doing, you wouldn't know. And that's where the research comes in to know. They have a program that for the small business community, because they want to do more around diversity and inclusion in communities. And they're going, how can we help these small business owners who have products get placed on our stores because they're too small? We would never originally look at them. So they create a program. And so I came through with, how can I help you facilitate that program? Because at the end of the day, have you thought about this, this, and this in regards to making sure that they have everything they need to be successful in your program? No, we didn't. So let's talk about it. You see how you're putting yourself in a position to be valuable, and you could do that. And in real estate, there's every one of these situations can be applied. You just have to think out the box a little bit and think, what would be, and I would make two lists: obvious partners, not obvious partners. Because at the end of the day, some people are doing things you just don't know unless something comes across your radar. So I'm constantly on my LinkedIn, I'm scrolling. I'm like, oh, they mentioned small business. Let me see if they're big enough. And I'll figure out, how can I figure out a way to connect with them? And if it makes sense, then I'll try to figure out a way. If not, sometimes I'll bookmark it for later. I like it, not big enough yet, or not where we're at right now. We're focused over here and it's over there. I'll put it in, I have files for that. I log everything. I can find any and everything been at the moment, because I tag it properly so I know how to find it. So there's a system to the madness. So it's not just a bunch of notes all over the place. They're strategically placed. I use a combination of Apple Notes because I'm an Apple guy, and I use and I'm moving all my stuff over now into Evernote, because you can tag things even more specifically there. You're tagging them to find them. So when, how many of you guys have sticky notes all over the damn place? I don't do that anymore. Everything goes in those two platforms. So I can access it on my iPad. I can access it on my phone, and within leveraging all these other tools, I can have a conversation with someone I haven't spoken to in a year and be right on point with where we left off.
Kenneth, I see you jump in a bit to want to say something, but give me one more question and I'll let you answer, because you've been a while. So final question before I open up for the attendees.
Yeah.
Where do you see yourself going in the next couple of years? Your consulting and things like that.
Space. No, I'm not going to space. I'm not spending that type of money. Right now I'm in the middle. I decided. So where I'm going is moving forward small business. That's now my baby. Okay. And this is, and I understood this when I took the job, when I took the position. Originally, I was the marketing director for the New York Marketing Association. And I switched my position, not them. I switched it because I was delivering so much value that I had some say in how, and I didn't want to be locked down. The reason why I started moving forward small business was I saw a need. I mentioned before, 4.3 million businesses alone have been started during the pandemic, and I started moving forward small business as a project in April of 2020, and then earlier this year I incorporated and turned it into an actual company. What I noticed with moving with New York Marketing Association was as an organization, I got further with partnership opportunities than I did as an individual. So this is where I said I leveraged that. I could get in with Staples. I can have conversations with other Fortune 500 companies, because they weren't looking at me. They were looking at the potential of the audience I had access to. So everybody has access to an audience. So how do you leverage that? So you can get on boards of some real estate thing that has access. And I'm not talking about nothing against the smaller Rotary clubs type situation. You need to find a legitimate, decent sized organization that has access, and then get in on a way that you're not just a member, but you're on a committee or you're on a board and you have some level of influence. From there, I said I would put together deals and they would fall apart. Why? Because I didn't have final say in the deal. And I said, this is not going to work. They're blowing my opportunities and they're blowing my relationships. So with moving forward small business, I decided I need to move forward with that, because I need to have control of the deal not even from the beginning, but for right now, from the beginning to the closing, because I know that is going to give me the opportunity to build that relationship. So it allowed me to create these opportunities and name the terms and figure out what am I willing to do to make this happen. I know, ask me the question again, because I feel like I'm going a little off here.
Well, where do you see, you talking about?
All right. So yeah, where do I see myself? I got you. Yeah. So now we're going for funding, because I have access to some pretty big players. Their problem is I'm not big enough. They like the way I think, they like what I'm doing, and they like what I've been able to do. But they're going, we give you this account, you're going to get inundated. And I understand that. And I've said to them, I'm not trying to go that deep with you yet. Here's where I'd like to go with you. I just want to build a relationship and not screw up our relationship. But they're going, but we need somebody to do this, and we like you. So now I've been forced to have to make a decision to take on investors or lose the opportunity. Now I decided that it's worth me, because I'm not the product. This is the product. So even if all my fears, oh, could they steal my company? Oh, can I get kicked out? Oh, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I don't care. I'll quit tomorrow, because this is what I still got. I could do this over and over again. And not that I want that to happen, but that if I let this fear lead me, I'm going to shoot myself in the foot. And I see a lot of entrepreneurs do it. My mentor says to me, the great thing about entrepreneurs is they fall in love with their ideas. The bad thing about entrepreneurs, they fall in love with their ideas. They don't know when to let go, when to, the horse is done. It can't run any more races. And you will still, to the end of the day, try to give it, pinching your finger, giving it a little bit more blood. It's done. And you got to know when that is. And so for me, I'm going, I'd rather have 50% of a half, I want this to be a multi-million-dollar organization. I've already got potential contracts. I just can't close them because I don't have enough human power to do that. So now so I made a decision. We're going for funding. I paused a lot of stuff, moved things into next year. And our goal is to get this to a million visitors a month website in 12 months, and to be doing at least $2 to $5 million in revenue in the next 2 to 3 years for this organization. Then I'll either sell it or leverage it to get better opportunities and partnerships. And we'll see where that takes us.
So can anybody help? Can somebody on here help add value to help you on here?
Well, again, that's where I would go, don't know, because I could not tell you that until we actually had a conversation. And I would not even try to do that because that's just the way that I look at partnerships. Partnerships have to be mutual and they have to make sense. So, there are things already in place. We have people, it's everything is people based. And so do I need real estate? Of course I need real estate, but I have people that know how to do that. But that doesn't mean that our relationship can't work, because I will go into a situation thinking the partnership can go this way and it goes another way. Prime example, the NBA. I went in with something and they came back with something bigger. The problem is I can't act on it yet. I mean, not in good faith, because a friend of mine was like, just take it. And I'm like, you don't take something that big without having a plan, because if you mess that up, that's going to hurt for a long time. And you gotta be realistic. And at the end of the day, it's not a race. Bottom line, it's not a race. This is the future of your life. This is the future of everything that you spent your life building. And as long as you know you're headed in the right direction, it's not a race. It needs to be done properly. Doesn't have to be perfect, but it needs to be done properly. So to say, can anybody help me? I have no clue without having a conversation to figure out, well, where's the value on both sides of the fence?
Right. Okay. I'm going to open up for attendees. Now, remember, at the end of this, though, remember, you still got to talk about a shiny light, because we that was something that we talked about as well. So, but I'm going to open up for my attendees. Kenneth, please take it away.
First, Jimmy, thank you. I mean, some great information, some great feedback and on what you do and how you're providing value. I was with you everything until you said you were an Apple guy, and it sort of went, oh, I'll look past that. But
thank you.
It's sort of a two-part question. Like you mentioned, trying to help small businesses or bunch of small businesses are starting up. I think with the pandemic, you said 5 years, has shown that people could start businesses from their home. They're starting businesses remotely, having partnerships like Claudia's in Germany, Luke's, I don't know where Luke is, Desmond's in New York City. They can be partners these days, starting a small business where that was impossible a few years ago. So basically, how do you see small businesses not really emphasize or utilize technology going forward? Or more importantly, how can we facilitate, like as real estate, like say apartment, or where do you see that impacting the real estate or like office space, commercial space going forward? Because used to be, I would start a small business, I go get an office or a corner store somewhere and try to run it there. Now I can run 2 or 3 of them from my house. And so what becomes of the future corner store? Is that gone completely now, or what's the next phase for that?
Sure. Yeah. Great question, Ken. Everything is hybrid at this point. Like I said, I did one of my first live events yesterday in Newark, New Jersey. And I leveraged the combination of, now I'm doing an Ask Me Anything with that same audience online next week. So again, it's all about content. So if you're driving, if you're doing things offline, give them an opportunity to drive them online to continue to build your online presence, but send them somewhere specific. So have something that's relevant to the conversations that you're having, and that at the end of the day would tie into a product or service that you deliver. And I know that sounds like a mouthful. I have specific ebooks. I give over 20 different types of talks, and I have very specific call to actions for every single one of them. They're still related to some of my main products and services, but they're very specific in why they would want to take that next step to get information, to be educated by me. You're educators, and you're either educating or you're helping them, and helping them is them buying your service. So, you're going to still have those, you're going to have to do both, and you're going to have to do both very well. Offline, you probably already do well because that's what we do. We're social creatures. The online side has to catch up and be able to capture that traffic and give them what they need and keep them engaged. So I hope that answered your question a bit.
I mean, yeah, half of it, but the other half is, where are these guys going to go, like in the real world? Like, I'll give you an example. WeWork was really big, or getting to be very big before the pandemic. Do you see something like that, like no one using like 123 as an office space and having like shared office spaces, or is that gone completely because of the pandemic? And how
Oh yeah, sure. I think people still don't want to work from home if they don't have to. I've worked from home for years. I had an office. Now I'm back at home because they sold the building. So now I'm looking but I still want an office. Why? Because there's still things I like to do that makes me look professional. So I think that's still always going to be a thing. You just now will have the opportunity to be able to work from home. I think your home structure would be more structured like your office, so you have the ability to go back and forth between the two and not suffer. But I think you still will have office spaces. There's just no way that certain things can be done without an office.
Check. Thank you.
Yep.
Claudia?
Yes. Hi. Thank you so much for being here and making such great points. You mentioned, the problem of the lack of creating content for a lot of companies. And, I feel like LinkedIn, like it's entrepreneurship and that's like the main one. But what other platforms, as far if you're an entrepreneur, like if you're gonna do like social media, more, recommended to do, like, is it Instagram? Is it, like Facebook? Is it Snapchat or like TikTok? Like, or does it depend, right? Because I think different age groups gravitate to different platforms. Or should you be doing it at everything?
Yeah, great question and an easy answer. From a marketer standpoint, you go where your audience is. I don't do anything on TikTok, but I have colleagues that do. Now, at the end of the day, your foundation and your structure is the most important thing to you, meaning your website. And if you have a local type of thing going on, it could be your Google My Business listing, because that controls your local online profile as well. So those two things, your Google My Business and your website, when those two things are optimized to the best of their ability, then everything else has to drive there to at some point. And like I said, so that becomes your hub. So it doesn't matter what social media platform you're on. My job when I'm dealing with people on social media is to get them off of social media and into my system, so I don't have to advertise to them ever again, or until they decide to unsubscribe to me. So I'm always looking for ways to say something on, whether it's LinkedIn. I use LinkedIn to build relationships. I use Facebook to sell stuff. And Instagram to sell stuff, because and don't get me wrong, I'll post educational stuff on those platforms, but that's not my intent, because most of the time, most people won't interact with my educational stuff on Facebook and Instagram, because it's kind of like family and I'm having a good time, and they're like, oh, you're too business for me, and I'm like, I don't care, but on LinkedIn, they'll interact with me because that platform is good for that. So I have an audience on both platforms. And Instagram, I'll post just because. Do I care if I post on Instagram? No, because I guess at the end of the day, my pipeline is full because I'm still doing stuff that's related to this digital marketing thing. And that's where my audience is. And it's funny, I had a conversation with someone yesterday at the live event, and she was talking about Snapchat. or whichever, TikTok, whichever the one. I go, to me, there's not enough people with money on there. I'm not selling $25 trinkets. I'm selling some heavy duty stuff, and I need people, the most amount of people that have money. I go, I like Facebook because there's old people with money on it. and that's why I'm on Facebook, because when everybody's like, oh, Facebook's for old people. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that, and that's where I'll be. So you need to do a platform well, and if you have the capacity through the resources to manage all of them, yeah, you should be on all of them. But if you don't, you pick the ones that are the lowest hanging fruit.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah.
Desmond, Luke, any of you guys want to ask a question?
Hey, good evening. Thank you again. That was great to talk, and kind of new to this whole thing. So I probably don't have a great question. I'm just curious, as you're talking, so you have a lot of partners and folks that you're working with, and I'm just curious about the size of the team that you have. I mean, are you you're talking like this is all, you're doing all these things by yourself. I'm finding that hard to believe. I feel
Yeah.
like you got to have a team, but maybe I'm wrong, and it's all you, and you're just, can you manage this all yourself, or do you have a support team that makes this happen?
I have both. I some of the stuff I'll do, and that's where we're doing the raise, because I now need to build an executive team, because things have gotten to the point where I can't manage everything. But I have VAs. So a lot of my team works remotely online, so they may be independent contractors. I do have an advisory board, and that was the first thing I formed when I formed Moving Forward Small Business. An advisory board works for you for free. Versus a board of directors. You don't get a board of directors, you get in every business. And I learned this, of course, being being on a webinar with someone I was trying to get on my board. She ran a thing and broke down advisory boards. Advisory boards, all they do is advise you. And now I joined one or two advisory boards, so I knew how it worked. So my advisors, there are 8 people, now 9 people on my advisory board that are all heavily connected. I'm here, they're here. Because advisors want to share their knowledge with young entrepreneurs that are motivated and are on the right track. So you have to think, well, who can I get advice from? And they don't have to necessarily be in your industry. They just need to know people, and they need to be connected, and they need to be where you've been or done things. So I'll tap them, and I'll try to get them together once every 3 months and just talk about my problems. And immediately they go and call John, tell him I sent you, call Lisa, call this, call that. 2 of them are doing all the funding for my business. One guy raised one of his raises was $20 million. So they don't necessarily have to work for you. They just have to work on behalf of you. And that's what I have as a team between my board members, my independent contractors, my VAs that work for me. And I have a few people that do some basic part-time work, but not the major. But I've switched my focus a lot. And sometimes I'll even use third-party services to deliver some of the services. The hard part is not delivering the services. The hard part is the structure and the strategy, because you can be enthusiastically going in the wrong direction. And what we try to do is make sure we're going in the right direction. So, but now I'm in a position where now I need to hire a lot of full-time employees. So that's actually where I'm currently at, because I know that's what some of the bigger organizations that I have the opportunity to communicate with are probably looking for. They're like, we need to see the internal team as well as all your external team members.
Can I ask a follow-up question?
Yep.
So if an advisory board is working for free, I mean, it sounds like they're knowledgeable, busy people. What's in it for a person on an advisory board?
Yep, sure. Advisory board, people that jump on advisory boards, there's a number of advantages. One is they get to give back. And this is part of their way. It's the same way you would contribute to a charity, just because it's just something that you can do and you want to do. So that's part of it. They're paying it back, because believe it or not, someone helped them.
Right.
So this is that. 2, they're able to, these guys are still, some of them are probably still deal making. And I connect my board members. Like I'm connecting 2 of them next week that haven't met. So I got a new board member coming in, and I'm connecting him with, because both of them are now going to be in charge of funding for us. So and both of them are playing the same circles but don't know each other. So that could lead to a big deal between them, which has nothing to do with me.
Okay.
So there are a lot of reasons why people are on I'm on the advisory board, but I'm on it because because I'm looking for more opportunities for other players that are at the same mindset as me, and now I can come up with how can we work together? Because if we're already in the same mindset, now the question is, are we compatible?
Got it. All right. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Desmond?
No, I'm just taking down some notes and listening. Very good, Jules. Thank you so much, Jimmy. Very good. Very good.
Thank you.
Yeah, just listen.
Well, Jimmy, you might as well talk about a shiny light then.
Yeah. We as entrepreneurs definitely can be extremely distractible. and this has been one thing I've been working on over the last 2 years, where I've had my hands in many pots, and it looks great when you talk about it, and it sounds great when you're in a cocktail hour with a drink in your hand. But at the end of the day, you come home and you pass out because you just don't have enough time in the day. And if you don't work on certain projects, then they stall out until you do them again. And so I had to put the blinders on. And one of the hardest decisions I made in the last few years was to start focusing on 1 or 2 major projects, and everything else has to wait, put it on the back burner. And that's where moving forward small business. And that was part of the decision to go for funding, because part of me was like, I can do this. So it may take me 3 years to get where I want to go with this new organization, because I have all the pieces. I just need to continue to build the relationships, or I can get funding and do it in a year. And I said, you know what, put the blinders on. I got off of a few commitments that I was involved in that I realized are no longer helping me. So I'm cleaning house again, because the faster you move, the more you have to remove stuff that is getting in your way. And you have to stay the course and stop, and, if someone calls you up, hey, I got this great idea, we can go into business and do some shoes and capitalize on that LeBron James thing. Nope. It is a good idea, and it's probably a good time to do it, but I'm not the person, because I have to stay focused. So, the blinky shiny thing for me is going, I like doing those other things because it keeps me engaged. But if I don't really focus on one big thing, I'm trying to break, I'm trying to go huge. And the only way to go huge is for me to fully focus. One of my mentors, he did an interview with a guy who owns Fuddruckers, if you guys are familiar with that restaurant chain. And I when I was doing my video phases, I was his videographer and editor. So I was editing an interview he did with the gentleman. And he goes, they were talking, candidly about all kinds of stuff. He goes, so hey, what happened to that idea? It was amazing you came up with. He goes, yeah, I didn't do it. He goes, well, why didn't you do it? It was like foolproof. He goes, because I couldn't find the team to do it. He goes, your job is, you can have as an entrepreneur, you can have your hand in lots of pots, but you can't be the one that's controlling the daily actions of those organizations, or else they're never going to get to the place where they need to be self-sufficient. He goes, so even at his position, and he could afford to hire a team, he's beyond that. He's like, I need the right people to run that. So it's my idea, but I need the right people in place to make it come to life. And that's when I realized that's the far side of complexity. Okay. Simplicity on the far side of complexity is what my mentor says. That means that, on this side, we're trying to be everything and do all these things, but he's going, you got to go through this process, break through, and now use your influence and resources to start these other organizations. But you're starting it based on the fact that you're going to put people in those right places to make that happen. That's how, so now the blinky shiny is not a big thing. You just got a great idea. Who can you find to do it? And you still can reap the benefits of being one of the founders or owners or whatnot. So I thought that was incredible advice, and I loved it.
Question. How many times during the week do you have meetups with your team, or is it different parts of your team that you have meetups throughout the week?
It's different times. We don't have a full set schedule. We will once the new organization is fully operational. We'll probably have like Monday morning meetings. I did have meetings on regular with some of my team members, but they were independent of each member. So it varies a lot. If there's something, because most of the stuff we're doing now is so routine that it doesn't require us to talk a lot. We can literally communicate through Slack. We can communicate, and that's where the technology comes in. There's a problem, we can deal with it through Slack. We can deal with it through we use a project management tool called Active Collab, so we can do a lot of work stuff to there. So now everybody's kind of on their own schedule, and we're not breaking everybody up. It's only when we have to get everybody on the same page because we're either we're off our center, or there's some new developments that needs to be brought to everybody's attention.
So would that be like financial, marketing, managing, maybe 2 or 3 other parts?
Yeah, it depends. It's because because I'm dealing with independent contractors and VAs, and a lot of them are not privy to some of that's internal information. Okay. So I may not want them on those calls because they get paid a set salary, they get paid a set fee, and our main thing, and the work is not like major that's going to affect the whole company. The only people that I would have ongoing meetings really at this point are my advisors, because my consulting business is me and my VAs. This company, now that I have it, and we're building it up, and we're not, when I was with other teams, now when I worked for other organizations, yes, we had those meetings, but I don't have them now. But I will have them once I know who's on my team, because I don't need everybody anymore. There are certain things that I need and certain things I don't need. I don't necessarily need, there's a thing called fractional executives, fractional CFO, fractional CMO. What that means is these guys, you can hire them for a smaller percentage and they'll represent you as the CMO of your company, but not full time. So that's where we're going in regards to getting those titles without having to pay a full-time salary as a small business, until we're at a point where we're doing so much work where we need to have a full-time CMO or CFO or CTO.
Fractional.
Yeah, fractional. So it's a different way of doing business now. Like the old model is old, and now we're going, how do we adapt it and leveraging technology and also trying to, the biggest problem with even with our advisors is trying not to eat up their time, because they are busy. So we're trying to go, to keep them happy, we want them not to be like, wow, he's asking way too much of us. And then get that phone call that, hey, I'm sorry, but I can't be on your board anymore. I'm too busy.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
You never hurt your eyes.
My son come up to me. So anybody got any more questions? Man, Jimmy, you just power packed this hour, man. Power packed this hour. So man, thank you, man.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Absolutely.
We definitely gotta talk some more. I want to see how I can help you, especially help me out with the NBA thing, man. It sounds really exciting to do. And it's always cool to see somebody who's building something in the process. I think a lot of times we see people who are finished and like, man, but when you see somebody in the process and they grow, you're like, oh man, it just motivates you even more. So yeah, man, thank you so much, man, for all the value you added to us. You got any parting words, man? Please, the floor is yours.
Yeah, sure. Let me think. Parting words. I would say do an assessment of what you look like online, and it's everything current, because that is the first place that 90% of people are going to see you, because they don't know you yet. And if they do meet you, if you guys are out and about and networking and this, that, and they can look out, they can go and they're going to want to look you up. If you guys reach out to me, I'm going to want to look you up, because I need to make sure that my time is not being wasted. And that's how I look at relationships when I'm trying to reach out to people that are 10 levels above me. I have to make sure that they immediately see me and go, this guy's not going to waste my time, or else I'm not going to get that call. I'm not going to get that opportunity. And so that, and like I said, it's all about who you know. It's these relationships, and how do you get them when you weren't born into this. And that's the thing, you know, most of the people, you know, that have these great opportunities, they got a cousin, or they had their dad. You know, you look at, like, I found out recently that like Maya Rudolph, you guys know her. I didn't know this. Like, her mother is Millie Rippleton, Minnie Rippleton, you know, and I forget who her father is. And you're going, oh, well, how, you know, when you start to trace, you see that a lot like this, the celebrities, their parents were famous, but you have no clue that's their parents. And so we don't have that luxury. We have to build those relationships with, you know, we didn't, you know, we don't have some of those guys that came, or girls or whatnot, that came through certain colleges or things of that. So we're starting from ground zero. And how do we break through? We have to be present. We have to be out there. We have to be spitting knowledge, and we have to have our ducks in a row when it comes to our online presence.
Well, here you go, guys. So, man, thank you so much, man, for all the value add. I'll turn this off now, but thank you guys for coming. Happy Veterans Day to all our veterans. This is a proud affiliate of the GOB Network, and you know, if any way we can add value, please let us know. And please subscribe to this YouTube page that we have for all our meetups. So take care, guys. God bless you, and take care.
You got it. Thank you, guys.